shoppers everywhere are winning McDonald's $40 million Dick Tracy.
Hands to the prairies, to the oceans white with foam.
Knock off a liquor store. Did something happen at the dance?
No, everything's fine.
All right, well then let's go shopping this afternoon, huh? Or maybe you want to practice for the Pom Squad finals.
I've decided not to go out for that.
You know, honey, if someone made you feel bad, it's probably because they're jealous of you.
Mom, I can't believe it. You're doing it again.
What happened last night?
It's not the dance, it's everything. You just don't understand.
Then tell me.
You know that green blouse? You know I don't wear it to school anymore? Because some kid called me the Jolly Green Giant. And another time Beanpole. And the Mad Store...
42. Strike one.
United States Capitol. See you next year.
Coming up, trace the progress of a nation from rural to urban as reflected through the Wish Book, Mr. Sears' Catalogue, next on The American Experience.
From Martin Marietta Corporation. In defense electronics, space, information management, and materials, Martin Marietta is masterminding tomorrow's technologies. Additional funding has been provided by the National Park Service and by the Corporation for Public Broadcasting.
This is PBS.
Simulcast transmission of this program is made possible by the Roth Family Foundation. Sunday, the Pops pay tribute to two American legends. First, Tommy Tune, the Manhattan Rhythm Kings, and the American Ballroom Theater's salute Fred Astaire. Then, Perry Como honors Bing Crosby. It's all Sunday beginning at 7 on KCET 28.
Farmers felt a little inferior. You know, they were called hicks and hayseeds and that sort of thing. This kind of hurt. If they could get more stylish goods, this gave them a sense of self-satisfaction.
Sears knew that if he bought in huge quantities and printed vast numbers of catalogs and got them to every corner, that he was going to make out like a burglar.
We sell everything. Dry goods, notions, clothing, cloaks, dresses, boots.
The Sears catalog and the Bible. In much of rural America, those were the only two pieces of literature in the home.
Mr. Sears' Catalog, next on The American Experience. Major funding for this series is provided by the Corporation for Public Broadcasting and by the financial support of viewers like you.
Corporate funding for The American Experience is provided by Aetna. For more than 130 years, a part of The American Experience.
Good evening, I'm David McCullough. For a long time, the most widely read writer in America was a cheerful, handsome man with a walrus mustache who worked at a roll-top desk in downtown Chicago. His office door always open to visitors. What he wrote reached tens of millions of Americans in every part of the country year after year. He filled countless hours for isolated farm families. He kept night watchmen awake. He was read aloud to sick children, carried to school, taken to sea, quoted, kept handy for reference. His success was such that special flatbed presses had to be set up to produce his opus, 10,000 copies a day of what was known variously and affectionately as the Farmer's Bible, the Big Book, the Wish Book, the Dream Book. He was Richard Warren Sears, originally from Minnesota, and he wrote nearly every word of the Sears Roebuck Catalogue, a particularly American phenomenon that revolutionized the way Americans lived, how they dressed, the tools they worked with, the dreams they set their hearts on. Sears was a super salesman, one of the best ever, and the catalog was his store window. With great descriptive detail and grand and honest guarantees, he sold shoes, shirts, mason jars, and pocket watches, shotguns, apple peelers, corn planters, everything from the kitchen sink to school bells and freckle cream, pianos and gumdrops. Were he here tonight to introduce our hour, he might tell you our film, Mr. Sears' Catalog, is our very finest grade. It has been tested thoroughly before leaving the factory and is certain to please everyone.
Dear Mr. Sears and Mr. Roebuck, away out on the bounding, billowy, bleak, barren prairies of the great South Plains, the hungry coyote's howl falls like a funeral dirge on the listening ears of a lonely man who longs with all his sad heart for just one copy of the fall and winter edition of the Catalogue of Sears, Roebuck & Company. Why have you denied me my inalienable right, that of sitting these long, lonely nights beside a cozy fire, diligently perusing said catalog and longing for the things therein? Likewise, since you propose to cater to all the wants and needs of everybody everywhere, have you in stock an old maid, widow, or orphan who might look with favor upon a man who is real hungry for the society of one of said fair daughters of Mother Eve? Please inform immediately.
It's the 1890s, and America is still a nation of farmers, millions of them, working land many have carved out of forests and endless stretches of prairie grass. Men and women, whole families that have tamed vast territories and made them productive. Native-born and immigrants, landowners and homesteaders. They are suspicious of the cities and the fast-talking people who live there. They believe in hard work, independence, and self-denial. They believe that theirs is a nearly perfect world. White churches, red schoolhouses, children raised to do their chores, say their prayers, and mind their manners. It is the rural America of myth and story, the heartland. But this is a place where material pleasures are few. Though the faraway cities are turning out goods of every description, the farmer's world remains spare, even barren. A world of hand-me-downs and homespun, of fading browns and grays, where style begins and ends on the shelves of a general store. All this was about to change. For generations to come, the Sears Roebuck Catalog would bring the material world to the doorstep of rural America. In it were all the things that dreams were made of.
Sears Catalogue and the Bible were almost universally in use in rural America for many years. And in much of rural America, those were the only two pieces of literature in the home.
Buying from the catalog must have been something like Christmas. In the mail comes this package for you, this special thing that you've picked out. You open it up, and there it is. It has to have felt like a present arriving every time.
The federal government ought to strike a medal for the Sears company for bringing so much color and mystery and magic into the lives of people who otherwise would not have it.
It was called the Wish Book. In its heyday, it weighed 6 pounds, ran to 1,500 pages, featured 100,000 products, reached some 20 million Americans. The Sears Catalog was the creation of one man, Richard Warren Sears. He was a product of the Midwest. As a man, he built the largest retail empire in the world by knowing the character and needs of rural Americans. As a boy, he was captivated by the power and possibilities of the railroad. The railroad would become the instrument of his dreams. The railroads were the masters of the plains. They were the only way in and the only way out. Where isolation was a fact of life, the passing of a train was a reminder of the world beyond the horizon.
The railroad engineer took the place of the old captain of the steamship on the Mississippi as a romantic figure. The little kids wanted to be railroad engineers, and you can see why. Isolated farm kids see the train go through, boy, that's what I want to do. And then he did.
Growing up in rural Minnesota, Richard Sears dreamed of becoming a railroad man. When he was 19, he went to work as a station agent in the small village of North Redwood, Minnesota. One day in 1886, he received a shipment of gold watches. No one claimed them. He struck a deal with the manufacturer and set about selling them. Richard Sears never stopped selling till the day he died. He sold out the first shipment and he ordered more. Within 5 months, he had amassed a small fortune, $5,000. He moved to Minneapolis and founded the R.W. Sears Watch Company. He advertised in local papers and urged the public to order by mail. Sears wrote all the ads himself. Orders came in by the thousands.
Don't go out and continue to ask your neighbor the time of day when you can have one of your own for so little money. Watches almost given away. Do not be lured into paying your retail jeweler 1/3 to 1/2 more because he poses as your friend. Our 10-jeweled Edgemere movement...
The affection of the American people for Sears started with Richard Sears, and started primarily because of his ability to communicate in ways that people could understand. He didn't use big words. He did not write in a way that made people uncomfortable. He was able to create a feeling that this is a person very much like us. This is a person we can trust.
Richard Sears had found his calling, a uniquely American enterprise, mail order. At first, it seemed an improbable scheme. Why would skeptical, hard-working people risk sending their money to some faraway place, to a merchant they did not know, for goods they could not see. But Sears knew that Americans were thirsty for goods they could not get at the local general store. This fabled institution stood at the center of the farmer's universe, a place to gossip, talk farming, read the news, collect the mail. But choices were few and prices were high, inflated by numerous middlemen. By the 1880s, country stores were vulnerable. Cut-rate mail-order companies were springing up all over the country. The giant of the mail-order business was Montgomery Ward and Company, headquartered in Chicago. Surveying its catalog one day, Richard Sears slammed his hand down on the cover and exclaimed, "That's the game I want to get into, the biggest game in the United States today." In March of 1887, the ambitious young Sears headed for Chicago to join the big time. Chicago was the undisputed capital of the Midwest, a place of unrivaled opportunity where fortunes could be made. It was the most modern city in the world. Back in 1871, it had burned to the ground and was now being completely rebuilt. Modern architecture was being born. Louis Sullivan, Daniel Burnham, and Frank Lloyd Wright were designing revolutionary buildings. Cable cars crisscrossed the city. Dozens of daily papers flourished. Telephones, electricity, elevators, every modern technology would be embraced with fervor. It was home to great industries, steel mills, meat packers, shipyards, and railroad builders. Its extraordinary vitality was expressed in its motto, "I will." It could easily have been Richard Sears' motto as well. Like thousands of others, he came to Chicago determined to extract his share of riches from the growing wealth of the American Midwest.
It's very difficult for us as urban people in the late 20th century to remember how rural America was 100 years ago. We were very rural, and you've got millions of farmers to do business with if you can get a catalog in their hands. And if you take the community that I grew up in East Central South Dakota, in our county, there were probably 700 or 800 farms at that time. And so this was a huge market, and it kept getting larger. And so if Sears could cut his price below the local merchant, he would have the inside track, there's no question about it.
By 1888, farmers all across the Midwest were buying watches from the R.W. Sears Watch Company of Chicago. Sears had gone into the watch business at the perfect moment. The nation had just been divided into time zones by the railroad companies in Chicago. Even the smallest village now had to conform to railroad standard time. For farmers who depended on the railroads, watches were no longer a luxury, but a necessity. Sears' business was booming. He hired his own watchmaker, a young man named Alva Curtis Roebuck. Sears and Roebuck could not have been more different. Roebuck was cautious, even timid. Sears was bold, impulsive, consumed by his work. Yet they developed a warm friendship and became partners. In 1893, the two established a new firm, Sears, Roebuck and Company.
Our mammoth catalog contains over 100,000 illustrations and quotations mailed to our 2 million customers all over the world. We sell everything, including everything in groceries, drugs, dry goods.
They would sell everything, and Richard Sears would write every word of their catalog.
Hardware, stoves, agricultural implements, furniture, harnesses.
From the very beginning, the words and pictures in Mr. Sears' catalog captivated Americans everywhere. Its hold on the imagination of millions would last for generations.
Send no money. If you live within 500 miles of Chicago, we will send you this massive, solid...
I remember particularly ordering a baseball mitt, a baseball, and a bat. All came in one package. There was also something nice about receiving a package through the mail, you know. Could open it up, and there is this wonderful thing from so far away.
Read the descriptions carefully. Note the illustrations and send us your order with the understanding that nowhere will you find as complete an assortment. This automatic shell ejector, genuine tapered chokeboard, long-range marvel gun is covered by a binding guarantee by the...
You would just sit around on cold days and look through that Sears and Roebuck catalog. And when I was a kid, the things that interest me, you know, guns and things like that, just like the other boy, I'd take them and paste them up on a wall, you know, put a little piece of paste up on the wall. And of course, you know, you say, well, it ruined the wallpaper. There was no wallpaper back in them days. You know, it's just wall, period.
The highest grade and finest doll ever produced. The body is the human shape made of an indestructible flesh color paper mache with ball joints, hips, shoulders, and wrists, moving eyes with eyelashes.
I always picked out a doll every time I got the catalog, and my cousin, without fail, always chose the same doll. We thought there was just one doll. It never occurred to us that, as we called them, Mr. Sears and Mr. Roebuck had more than one doll. So we almost fought over who was going to order the doll first.
Sears knew how to promote so that they had mass market. And he knew that if he bought in huge quantities and printed huge, vast numbers of catalogs and got them to every corner, that he was going to make out like a burglar. And that is exactly what happened.
Richard Sears thrived in an age when hucksterism was accepted, even celebrated. He was obsessed with dramatic promotions designed to seize the attention of the buying public. He called them schemes. He took a common mail order practice, cash on delivery, COD, and turned it into a tantalizing sales pitch, send no money. Sears never missed an opportunity to dramatize his devotion to satisfying his customers. One day, he saw a trolley conductor drop and break his Sears Roebuck watch. Introducing himself, Sears invited the man back to the factory to pick out a new one and told him, "We guarantee our watches not to fall out of people's pockets." In the state of Iowa, he offered his customers the chance to earn free merchandise if they would simply agree to hand out the catalog to likely prospects. Schemes like these earned Sears the loyalty of farmers all over the country.
Richard Sears was probably one of the great promotional geniuses in American business history. He had a basic understanding of American people and the way they did things. Most farm homes in those days had both a Montgomery Ward catalog and a Sears catalog. And if you have ever seen the two catalogs, you'll know that the Ward catalog is larger than the Sears catalog. Richard Sears deliberately made his catalog smaller so that sitting on the living room table, which is where the catalogs usually sat in the farm home, the Sears catalog would always be on top. That little touch indicates the kind of understanding Richard Sears had of people and the way they lived. Basically, Richard Sears did not set out to be a pacemaker. He set out to reflect what people were buying, what they liked. Some of the patent medicine nostrums, for example, that cure practically anything that you have. Those were things that people believed in those days. People believed in electric belts. They believed that that tingling sensation around the waist was doing something good for them.
The giant power Heidelberg electric belt was a Sears exclusive for a buying public newly infatuated with the wonders and mysteries of electricity. It proved irresistible.
In just 1 month, you will be a new man. For disorders of the nerves, stomach, liver, kidneys, diseased or debilitated conditions of the sexual organs from any cause whatever, our belt is worth all the drugs and chemicals, pills, tablets, washes, injections, and other remedies put together. Its strengthening, healing, and vitalizing power is magical, never before equaled. Don't suffer in
This
silence.
kind of thing did have a big sale in rural America, mainly because doctors were not close to people. It might be 20 miles to town and a doctor. And doctors were not in every little town either. So there was this isolation, and if you were ill, you took the best cure that was available. Of course, they wouldn't do all that they were supposed to do. Some of them were not harmful, but some of them were. In fact, the women would give soothing syrup to their little babies to still their coughs. Well, it had opium in it. So, you know, for a time, it would ease the cough, but it wasn't a proper medicine. But rural people were tempted to believe what they read. Maybe all Americans are. So you often have discussions and you say, well, I know that's true because I saw it in the paper. And you prove a point by going back to the paper. Well, the printed word carried a great deal of validity in rural America, I think.
Richard Sears published his catalog at a time when writing was the only form of mass communication. Rural Americans so respected the written word that they had achieved an even greater degree of literacy than people in the cities. For generations, they had been learning to read, write, and figure in one-room country schoolhouses.
A little child who loves to pray and read his Bible too shall rise above the sky one day and sing as angels do, shall live in heaven, that world above, where all is joy and peace and love.
Take 2, add 2, add 6, subtract 8, add 10, divide by 6, add 10, and how many have you?
16!
407 years ago, our fathers brought forth on this continent,
Once or twice, though you should fail, try, try again. If you would, at last, prevail, try, try again.
Salvation. S-A-L-V-A-T-I-O-N. Salvation.
The farmers put everything into their country schools, and they had their whole life built around the country school. They understood that in order for their children to advance, they had to know how to read, to write, and to figure. There was no nonsense about, well, maybe not everybody has to be literate, that kind of thing. They knew they had to be literate. And many of the country children would learn these great orations. Webster's reply to Hayne, for example, the Gettysburg Address. And sometimes you wouldn't know the meaning of everything you memorized, but later on, it would come to you. Oh, that's wonderful. You've got that experience there. You've got it all tucked away in your mind, and all of a sudden, you see the great beauty, say, of a poem.
Poems, orations, cautionary tales, books of all descriptions. Sears sold them all.
Just think of being able to get books on any subject, anytime. Your choice of 10,000 titles, ancient and modern authors, latest books off the press, newest fiction. Get acquainted with the masterminds of all times. Keep posted on the progress of our own times. Your dream of a worldwide library in your own home comes true.
There was no aspect of rural life that escaped the attention of Richard Sears. The catalog appealed to people's most intimate hopes and desires, and it promised relief from the unending labor that was every farmer's burden.
Life was, in some respects, hardest for farm women. It was a pretty tough life, that daily routine, practically none of them had running water. So this meant that you had to bring water in from the outside. So the men might help carry in the water some, but most of the water was carried in by women from a pump or well outside. Well, that was hard work. Then there was the problem of getting the water heated and moving the water from the stove to the scrub board.
Monday would be wash day, and when rural people would say Monday was wash day, they meant all day Monday. Hauling the water, setting up the copper boilers. It was a huge task that would take all day. Tuesday was ironing. Okay? Another task would be filled all day.
You got to remember that these women had a hot stove to heat the water and to heat their iron, which made the kitchens, well, in the whole house, insufferably hot.
It looks like terrible drudgery as we look back, but it was what everybody did. And underneath all of it was the delight and pleasure and satisfaction of surviving, of knowing that you were making it. Just raising a field of wheat, raising a field of corn, they're beautiful. So there must have been pleasures in looking out at what you had created and what you kept going. There are enormous pleasures in watching gardens grow, to putting your seeds in and then going out and weeding your green beans and then taking your beans in and canning them. And you open up your cupboards and you have this cupboard full of green beans. Baking bread, baking pies, baking biscuits, preparing your own milk, making your own butter. Most of daily rural life had to do with making food. It's cooking all day. A 19th century woman would have fixed breakfast, lunch, dinner, lunch, supper, lunch. There would have been equivalent of kind of 6 meals that a woman would have fixed. And so you're in the kitchen all day making meals.
The family friend, the stove without a fault. We guarantee safe delivery and permanent satisfaction.
Dear Mr. Sears, when the stove came, we sent for all the neighbors and unpacked it. When she was all ready, I put in a fire. I watched her closely and saw her getting right down to business, just like the darling that she is. I have a couch in the kitchen now where I've slept every night and have never left her night or day since I lit her fire a week ago.
In the 1890s, most sewing machines cost $50. Sears sold his for as little as $10.45. By 1902, he was selling one sewing machine a minute, 100,000 every year.
If you know the difference between hand sewing and machine sewing, it must have felt like an extraordinary luxury to have that machine. But the availability, ready availability of sewing machines also has a flip side, a darker side to it. It was not uncommon for women to have a seamstress come around and spend anywhere from a day or a couple days through to a week, maybe 10 days, helping her with her sewing. And having another woman in your house for a time is a way, one of those ways that those 19th century women were less isolated. And once that woman no longer comes, then it's me and my sewing machine. And it might be wonderful to have my sewing machine, but there is the downside of doing my sewing alone now, rather than with somebody else.
Richard Sears understood something else, and that is that farmers felt a little inferior. You know, they were called hicks and hayseeds and that sort of thing. And this kind of hurt. And so if they could get more stylish goods, this gave them a sense of self-satisfaction. So as Sears provided a greater variety and the latest styles, he did a great deal, I think, as a merchant to homogenize America, as the rural people could buy the same things that people bought in town.
Sears catalog was a kind of dream book, but also it's a kind of attachment to the rest of the world. There are wonderful photographs of 19th century women dressed in a kind of fancy dress. These are women who, though, are working out in the countryside, in their farms. I think this is a woman who wants to be like fashionable people elsewhere. It's a person who really cares.
As late as 1893, a woman writing about how a woman should present herself, how she should be dressed, said, as just a matter of course, none but a bawdy woman goes uncorseted. It was just not, honestly, not done. And when your system, your body was used to that support, you wore it if you worked in the fields. You wore that corset with your everyday clothing, a looser, lesser corset, but never go without, never. A woman wanted to please a man by having that kind of figure that he liked to see. And so a handstand waist and a very full lower section. In fact, a woman dressed mostly in the 19th century as though she had no lower limbs, as though she were on a monopodium, sort of, and ran on little wheels. That's why it was so naughty to show a foot or an ankle. I mean, you could show clear down to here, but you didn't show your ankle.
Dear Mr. Sears and Roebuck, to me it's a great surprise that somewhere in your bookkeeping you have not recorded my size. Of course, to forget my measure on my part was a mistake. Suppose when I filled out that order, I could not have been fully awake. I sure was in a hurry for that corset, but it's my fault I'm in such a fix. And I wish I could say, Sears and Roebuck, that I'm a perfect 36. But while my bust is only 31, as sure as you're alive, I'll have to admit my hips are large. They measure 35. So bear in mind these measures, and as quickly as can be, send me corset 18W303. Then most grateful I will be.
One thing Sears really did is make it easier on the American woman. She used to have to make most of the underclothing that she and her daughters and even her sons wore. She even made a lot of her husband's underclothing. So it made it ever so much easier with Sears providing all this mail-order goods. And the merchandiser who would have one store couldn't compete with Sears.
Richard Sears was so wildly successful right from the very beginning that very often the amount of orders that his advertising would generate ran him out of stock very quickly. And there were times back in those early days when they simply took orders out in the backyard and burned them.
Richard Sears thrived on the anarchy he was creating, but his mild-mannered partner did not. Roebuck was exhausted by the frenzied rush to fill orders and fearful that Sears would lead them to ruin. Roebuck wanted out. In 1895, he sold out to Sears for $25,000. The man whose name would forever be linked with the company faded into oblivion. But Sears just kept on expanding. He borrowed heavily, gambling that his aggressive promotions would bring in even more orders.
While Richard Sears was a promotional genius, he was not a good manager, and this was a source of real trouble. One example had to do with pants promotion. Sears visited a factory of a pants manufacturer with whom he had not done business before. Sears looked at the merchandise, he liked it, and he said, I'd like to order 10,000 pairs of pants. The pants manufacturer said, but Mr. Sears, isn't that a pretty large order? Wouldn't you be better off by starting off with, say, 1,000 and see if you can sell them? And Richard Sears' reply was, I've already sold them. I need to fill the orders I've already got.
The pants manufacturer, whose name was Julius Rosenwald, was astonished by Sears' enormous volume of sales. He offered to invest his own money into Sears' chronically cash-starved operation. In 1896, Rosenwald became Sears' new partner. Taking charge of the company's day-to-day affairs, he brought order out of chaos. He hired hundreds of young women to process the mail and opened warehouses all over Chicago. He quickly won the confidence of big city bankers and bought into dozens of factories, ensuring a steady supply of goods. Julius Rosenwald was a new breed of businessman and a firm believer in innovation.
One of the most dramatic things that Julius Rosenwald did was his introduction of the profit-sharing plan. Much to the consternation of Rosenwald's business friends, who saw sharing profits with employees as just outright socialism.
The profit-sharing plan provided employees with stock in the growing company.
I remember the story of a porter that we had in the store, and this man couldn't read nor write. But when the profit sharing started, he signed up, he put his X on the form, and so over all the years, he never realized that he had this profit sharing. He got a statement every year, but he couldn't read, so he didn't know what it was. So we owed it to him, so our detective agency or department finally located him down in Alabama somewhere, living with this young lady, to hand him a check for $250,000.
Julius Rosenwald presided over one of the fastest expansions in American business history. In his first 2 years, the company's sales tripled. The immense popularity of the catalog had country storekeepers up in arms.
When the storekeepers were angry about the mail order business and the number of catalogs coming into the farm homes, they would often offer the children a free movie ticket if they would bring a catalog in. Then they'd take the catalogs out and burn them, have a tremendous bonfire.
The storekeepers were fighting a losing battle. The catalog had just acquired a powerful new ally, the U.S. Post Office. Since the Civil War, farmers had been obliged to travel to the nearest general store to pick up their mail. Then, in 1896, the federal government inaugurated Rural Free Delivery, RFD. Letters, newspapers, catalogs, all would be delivered directly to the farmer. The very idea that the government was sending someone out to visit them every day delighted farmers everywhere.
The rural carrier often did a lot of favors for people. He was a sort of a romantic character, and I had ran across many stories where there'd be a note in the box, the chickens need watering, I've gone to town, would you water the chickens? Or some little favor like that. And usually the rural carrier did it.
Mailman, I didn't have any change this morning, so would you sell this half a dozen eggs to get a stamp for this letter? And what change is left, bring me about 6 postcards and the rest in 3-cent stamps.
Please write the name on this letter of that feller you saw me with yesterday. I guess you know him, don't you?
Dear Mr. Mail Carrier, please feed our chickens and water the cows and the mule in the stable. And if the bees have swarmed, please put them in a new hive. We've gone visiting.
Rural free delivery really had a profound effect on rural America. One thing, it broke up the isolation of the farmer's life because the rural mailman himself was a kind of a newsman. And they loved to go out and talk to him, because he might have the news from the neighbor down the road. And so it was a little tough for the rural mailman sometimes to get through his route in time, particularly when he had the horse and buggy.
By the turn of the century, RFD had put the catalog into the hands of farmers all across the nation. The first years of the 20th century would be a time of unprecedented prosperity for rural America.
This was known as the golden age of American agriculture, the period from about 1900 to the end of World War I. And so farmers were relatively well off, and they had the money to buy these new commodities and better commodities and more stylish things that they saw in the catalogs. Most farm homes had a parlor, and the parlor was the place that you didn't go into every day. You didn't go there during the week with your dirty overalls in out of the field. It was a special room in many farm homes.
The parlor was a place to read, to write letters, to think about the world beyond. For 46 cents, a Sears stereoscope could take you anywhere.
Many parlors had a piano or an organ. Especially this would be true if there was anybody in the family that could play one of those instruments. And it's surprising how many people could play the piano in these rural communities. You never had any trouble, at least to my knowledge, of finding somebody who could play the piano or the organ for church or at school or wherever it might be.
At one time, there were more pianos and organs in American homes than bathtubs. Families gathered around the piano, entertaining each other, singing together. Guitars, violins, banjos, mandolins, clarinets, these were the instruments of courtship, celebration, and ceremony. But in 1897, the Catalogue introduced an intruder into the parlor, the phonograph. Thomas Edison's new machine and the mass-produced recordings he sold fascinated the country. Passive entertainment had arrived. The family would now gather around Edison's machine and listen to Sousa marches, sermons, minstrel shows, comedians, opera stars, and the popular songs of the day. On the banks of the Wye,
far away. When someone got a phonograph, there was a signal on the party line. I think it was 4 longs. See, we didn't have phone numbers. We had 2 shorts and long or 2 longs and so on like that. You turned the old crank on the telephone, about a half a turn for the short and a couple of turns for the long, and we knew everybody's ring by how many shorts and longs it was. So 4 longs was the signal for everybody on the party line, and there were many, to take down the receiver, and then whoever had the phonograph would play records. Of course, just one member per family could listen, so they would take turns standing up, holding this old receiver up to their ear and listening to the music.
Every price we quote is a revelation. Look carefully over our very...
The phonograph was only the first of a series of modern marvels that Richard Sears ballyhooed in the catalog.
Our low prices.
Telephones, cameras, movie projectors, gasoline engines, and something called the magic lantern.
Do you wish to make money with little effort? We direct your attention to the unrivaled opportunities presented by our special lecture outfits. No experience necessary. Your first week's work will more than pay for this investment. Around the world in 80 minutes. 80 views describing a complete trip around the globe. With this wonderful selection of choice views, the exhibitor can give his patrons a big run for their money as he takes them with him on a trip around the world and imparts information which has cost.
Sears was inviting his readers to join him among the ranks of the successful. For a small investment, you too could buy a share in the American dream. But some of his customers expected Sears to provide them with more than just inspiration.
Dear Mr. Sears, could it be possible for me to borrow $500 from you on 10% interest to buy myself a little piece of land? And if I fail to repay you, you may, at my say-so, use my heart for a target spot.
Richard Sears had become a legend, a bona fide American success story. He had started in 1893 with only a handful of employees. Just 13 years later, when the company opened its new Chicago headquarters, 9,000 people reported for work. What began with the sale of a box of watches from a remote railway depot had grown into the largest retail business in the world.
This building is the largest ever erected for housing merchandise. This great structure, this teeming hive of industry is well lighted, systematically arranged.
Sears celebrated the plant's opening by issuing a series of stereoscope slides, each bearing a caption written in his trademark style.
It is no uncommon experience for us to receive 90,000 letters in a single day. The young women who open our mail are far above the average in intelligence. As rapidly as the mail sacks are received, the letters are passed through a machine which stamps the date and hour of arrival of each and every piece. This work
to make sure that one order consisting of buttons, coffee, curtains, corsets, and a shovel would come together in the same place at the same time was no simple matter.
Clothing is on the 9th floor, cameras
The plant was a triumph of modern industrial design.
Baskets containing these goods are put into spiral chutes and immediately begin a gravity descent to the shipping room. The goods are disposed of as rapidly as if they were thrown out of a window. Every order is dispatched by means of our pneumatic tube system. We use more than 15 miles of tubing, which takes the place of an army of messenger boys. We handle as many as 105,000 orders in a single day. To print our big catalog, we operate the largest private press room in the world. If Gutenberg, the inventor of printing, could come back to Earth today, he would scarcely recognize the craft he followed in his lifetime. In the course of a single day, we print 30,000 copies of our 1,200-page catalog. In the course of a year, we send through these presses a strip of paper long enough to wrap 9 times around the world. If these rolls were piled end upon end, one atop...
Even Richard Sears could not exaggerate the immense scale of this merchandising and distribution machine. It now not only sold, but manufactured its own vehicles, shoes, cameras, saws, safes, stoves, washing machines, organs, furniture, guns, plumbing supplies, and plows. 75,000 buggies a year, 10,000 gallons of paint a day, over 7,000 rolls of wallpaper an hour. They even sold entire houses. This was an economic colossus. But for Richard Sears, the maturing of his company was a mixed blessing. The genius of promotion was being eclipsed by Julius Rosenwald and his modern corporate strategies. The company had outgrown the need for Sears' impassioned salesmanship. In 1908, at the age of 44, he retired. The one-time railroad man who had started with just $50 to his name was worth $17 million. Just 6 years later, he died. Sears didn't live to witness a revolution that would transform the rural way of life. For farmers, the automobile provided undreamed-of freedom. The countryside would never be the same again. The gasoline engine eased many of the burdens of farm life, but cherished traditions began to fade. In many places, one-room schoolhouses were legislated out of existence. The general store was beginning to disappear. Even the mailman was in a hurry now. He didn't have time to chat. In the span of a single generation, America had changed.
It's kind of a haunting period when things had never been better on the farm, and yet people were leaving the farm, and people began to worry about this. There was a feeling, which goes deep in American roots, that the best people live in the farms. They are the most independent, they are the most reliable, they are the most honest, and if you lose those people, what's going to happen to America?
The heyday of the catalog was over. By 1925, a majority of Americans lived in urban areas. For Sears, Roebuck and Company, the time had come to open retail stores. They were a huge success. But the special feeling of intimacy created by Mr. Sears' catalog was lost. there is no record of any sales lady or store manager ever receiving a letter from a customer longing for a husband or a wife.
Dear Mr. Sears, would you be kind enough to do your share in assisting a poor, forlorn teacher in her future happiness by sending this man who appears on page 491 of your latest edition? If at the present time this particular man is not in stock, I leave the responsibility of choosing my future mate up to you. Thank you kindly.
Dear Mr. Sears, would like to know which sounds better for children to call their parents. Father, mother, papa, mama, or daddy. Have a girl who likes to write with her left hand. Would you train her to write with her right hand or not? And why? What is the meaning of rhythm? And what are physics? Have you a book for sale that explains how words are pronounced? Let me hear from you soon. Thank you kindly.
Dear Sears and Roebuck, please put feet on your ladies in the catalog so they'll make nicer paper dolls. We can barely find ladies with feet to finish our families. We are 11 years old. Please do not put prices on their legs. Please give this to Mr. Sears. Thank you.
In 1933, in the worst of the Depression, a small elderly man came to the Sears Roebuck employment office in Chicago to ask for a job, any job. It was Alva Roebuck, the Mr. Roebuck of Sears Roebuck, who had run on hard times. Since selling his share of the company back in 1895, Roebuck had invented an improved typewriter called the Woodstock, which was later made famous in the sensational Alger Hiss case. Roebuck put the money he made from the typewriter in Florida real estate, and when the crash came in 1929, he lost everything. Roebuck was hired back at Sears. He worked for wages as a celebrity cutting ribbons at the openings of new stores. He retired in 1940. When asked if he regretted the fortune he missed by selling his share of the company, Roebuck always said no. After all, Richard Sears was long since dead, and he, Roebuck, was still going strong. I'm David McCullough. Good night.
Coming up, the American experience continues following the difficult journey to America undertaken by European immigrants in search of a better life. Next on KCET 28.
Major funding for this series is provided by the Corporation for Public Broadcasting and by the financial support of viewers like you.
Corporate funding for the American experience is provided by Aetna. For more than 130 years, a part of the American experience.
Educational organizations may inquire about video cassettes of the American experience by calling 1-800-424-7963.
This is PBS.
For a printed transcript of this or any American Experience program, send $5 to Journal Graphics, New York, New York, or call 212-227-READ.
A charming portrait of a unique woman. My Grandma Flora, tonight at 11:01 on New Takes.
I know you get to like it if you give it a chance now. Come on, baby, do the locomotion.
Go underground for high adventure. Ride the famous subways of the world. Catch the Big City Metro.